We've made it to Friday. Take your Bible, if you would, go to John chapter number 8. John chapter number 8. And what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can adjust our approach to a lost world that's out there. It's hurting. It's caught in the grind of everything that they've been told. Many of them having never really heard the gospel or really understood how someone could be freed from their sin, and they need someone to come to them who can look right past it. In fact, let me just say this. We're going to need to see past sin to help those who need Jesus, because all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And so I think that we're going to have to get over our shock that people who don't know the Lord live in sin. Things that they have been told or learned or just decided to tell themselves were okay. Maybe their circumstances drove them there and they had no choice for their own survival to do things that we consider sin. We're going to have to look past that so that we can help them find their way to Jesus, so that Jesus can work with them and their sin. And so in chapter number 8 of John, it says this in verse number 3. We're just going to read out a few verses. It says, and the scribes and Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they said unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now, Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? Okay, so here's the scene. Woman was taken in the midst of adultery. That means she was pulled right out of her very bed of adultery, that she was engaged with another man and other than her husband, and they just threw her in the midst. I'm sure all she could do is just grab a robe and cover herself, and that's it. And so she was humiliated and embarrassed and thrown at the feet of Jesus with no regard for her being a human being. And so in verse number 6, this they said, tempting him that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard them not. Okay, so Jesus deals with her instead of them, at least appears to be. Look at verse number 7. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground, and everybody tries to speculate on what he was writing in the ground. Maybe he was writing down just types of sin, and maybe the way he wrote it was pointed at an individual or whatever, or there's a lot of speculation there on what he was writing. In verse number 9 it says, and they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last, and Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. Okay, so here we've got Jesus telling them you can't cast a stone unless you're without sin, unless you've got all your sin areas completely under control. And I wonder sometimes if maybe Jesus was writing secret sins down, or maybe even beginning to and then stopping, or letting them understand that he knew their sin too. And so verse number 10, when Jesus had lifted himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? Listen to verse number 11. This is the key, because pieces of this verse are left out to permit our sin. Verse number 11, she said, No man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. To get a voice with an adulterous woman, Jesus had to clear out the crowd, not condemn her foolishness, and offer her an opportunity to walk out of that sin. And he said, go and sin no more. He tells this to many, many, many people. Various circumstances, various situations. He doesn't condemn them in their sin, but doesn't permit it. He doesn't tell them, don't worry about it, pretend like it never happened. He says, stop sinning. You don't have to do this anymore. I am going to not condemn you right now and let you learn how to not sin. And that's what Jesus brings to a life. He doesn't come to a life after it's free of sin. He comes to a life in sin and says, I don't condemn you. I'm trying to free you. Go and sin no more. And so if we're going to preach the gospel, we're going to share the gospel with others, we're going to have to get past their sin and get over the fact that they are sinning because we sin too, and then share the gospel with them so that they can go and sin no more. And so I want to encourage you with that. So when you're proclaiming the gospel, you're going to have to take that look off your face that says, wow, I'm grossed out by you. Wow, I'm offended by you. But here's Jesus. And we're going to have to learn how to love people where they are and then help them by giving them Jesus, who will help them sin no more. And I know that if you do that, you're going to have a fruitful ministry with the people you're connected with. Have a great day.